Hello, we're going to get started. My name is Kim Oswick. I'm one of the co-chairs of the CIT/GIS program. Today we have with us Chad Kendall. He has been a supporter of our program and a student of our program at the GIS side. And he's here to tell us a little bit about what GIS is. There's a very strong tie over between CIT and GIS. So hopefully there's some GIS people in the audience in the Zoom and CIT people. So at the end, he'll give us an opportunity to ask questions. So take it away, Chad.
I learned this, right? I'm gonna walk back over. So yeah, my name is Chad Kendall. You can all see it. I'm a geospatial developer. I work currently at Lancaster County Assessor's Office. I've been there about 3 or 4 years. Before that, I worked at the county engineer's office. I was there roughly 20 years. And prior to that, I worked 3 years at Windstone. And that was just a private GIS firm, I think 27 years ago, just starting out. So my career has kind of stayed the same. I'll say when I started at Windstone, I was almost out of the drafting, engineering, architectural drafting here at SCC, and I had actually pulled a flyer off of way back when we were only that building way back here, and I pulled a little flyer off that said, "Hey, do you want to come learn about GIS?" And I went to Windstone, and the first question they asked me was, showed me a map, "Can you draw this?" And I kind of chuckled and said, "Yeah, it looks like a bunch of squares." In class, I'm drawing for me, I was drawing 71 Plymouth Barracudas. So I was drafting long before. I got my great first start there at Windstone though. Moved over to county engineer, and it was odd because at the time we kind of took a step back. They were doing everything command line, which for me, I had never done command line with GIS. So it was kind of a different thing, but I might talk about that a little more later. Move through some slides. This is just small stuff, I know it says brief, but GIS history, this was something that I found to be very odd, but in the 60s in Canada, the Roger Tomlinson, he's the one that developed the first actual GIS system. And basically as it says, for doing land inventory and stuff. But in 1969, Jack and Laura Dangermond, now it's just basically just Jack doing everything, founded ESRI, which I've been to a couple of their conferences. I actually just got back from one, and the first question somebody asked me was, "What does ESRI stand for?" And I said ESRI, and they said, "No, it's Environmental Systems Research Institute," which in 27 years, I didn't know that. So this is where we got our start in GIS, and ESRI is still the most prominent software platform to do this. And this was just something I pulled up offline, that today GIS is super important and very powerful, and that I couldn't believe that 95% of universities had a GIS program. That kind of blew my mind. I had some other facts about it, but it's kind of odd how many places have courses now. So this is longer list, where I'll get into it a little bit more about what we do with GIS. So this is, to me, all the real world that I could think of off the top of my head. And I'm sure there's more, but I'm actually kind of going to go through each one of these because I deal with a good handful of these in my job as a Lancaster County GIS geospatial developer. So emergency operations. So I don't know if everybody knows, but there's an actual EOC, an Emergency Operations Center here in Lancaster County that can withstand, I think, an F4 tornado hitting it. We can lose power, we can lose the internet, and we have everything still available to us in our bunker. It's up by the state pin. It's kind of an interesting area. But within there, we had some floods that happened in 2015. I went into the EOC, which used to be in the old police station downtown, and I said, "We need to be having GIS down here. You guys are handing out paper and you're drawing on walls." And I'm like, "No, we need GIS down here." So now, can't remember what was it, 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, we had fires going down south. And unfortunately for me, I was actually in California at a ESRI conference, and I'm in charge of the GIS for the Emergency Operations Center. So other people go down, but we actually mapped out where every single fire was. And then from there, we can map out knowledge of is anybody in need, et cetera. So any emergency we can ask and give a map to whatever anybody wants and any kind of data for the health department. So I have public health, so like the health department for all their Red Cross shelters, stuff like that. We can mark down where everything is, what's going on, and where every piece of equipment is at or moving to.
So when you first step in emergency operations centers, you're like, why are there so many papers here? No, we are not doing it like this.
Right.
GIS here.
Correct. What happened was during the flooding, we actually mapped out, at the county engineer, we mapped out every single incident where a road had been flooded. So we had 1,776 pictures of flood water. And using GIS, I was able to actually go in, click a button, and in 5 minutes, it mapped it out over the whole county. And when I went to the Emergency Operations Center, they were asking, so where are all the incidents happening? Where's everything going on? And I was like, well, if you had GIS in here, we'd be fine. It took maybe, I'd say maybe a month before they actually said, let's do this. And we've been in there ever since. Different people have taken it over. It's swapped back and forth, but now it's back into my hands. So I deal with it extensively. And then we have a crew of 6 people in case we have to keep working extra hours. But we try to keep the paper at a minimum because like here we have screens we can put stuff up on. So next I'm gonna go to law enforcement. So law enforcement is, I believe there's actually, and I think I got it on the next slide, there's criminal justice here at SCC, right? So when you have criminal justice, we actually have, we've created a GIS dashboard for our sheriff's department, and they're able to actually look to see when crimes are happening, what are the hot spots for times, days, obviously months, but it gives them a whole gambit of data. So we can go in and look and see what's going on in each village. So every village has access to the map also. So they can go in and say, this month, so I live in Waverly, so the answer, I would queue in Waverly what's happened this month. And it will go filter everything down and say there's been 13 incidences. I click a button, it prints a map of where all those incidences are, and then gives me a rundown in tabular form in a PDF that says time, date, what the incident was, and who the officer was. So the officers at the sheriff's office can get data anytime they want, anywhere. They can get it while they're in California messing around if they really want. So I make a joke that the court system is always one of my favorites. Probably shouldn't be funny, but usually once a year, there's a little gambit of about a month that I get phone calls that say, hey, we need your maps. And quite honestly, what my maps usually consist of are there was a murder, a sexual assault, something dastardly has happened, and they will give me all the data. Here you go, here's all the data, map it out for us. And it's kind of interesting when you find out that you have somebody who's done something terrible and probably should unfortunately be incarcerated for it, but their lawyer's saying, no, they didn't do it. And then they walk up and set a map down that shows everything. This has happened 3 times. The criminal has said, you're right, you got me. We don't need to go to court. We don't need to waste time. You got me. Because the maps don't lie. This is where you were. This is the time. Here's what you did. And here's a map for it. So, excuse me, I get that a lot. Public health goes back to emergency operations as well as infrastructure management. Archaeology, I put that in there because I'm an avid watcher of Discovery and History, and I cannot think of his name right now. Oh, I feel really bad. He lost part of his leg, and he is an archaeologist, and he goes out and goes to different sites. And he actually uses drones and GIS to map out everything he's doing. Do you know who he is?
Do you by chance know the name of this show?
No, I can't even think of that because I think his name is part of the show. I want to say something Lin is his last name, like Justin Lin or something like that.
No, the guy you're talking about
Yeah.
walk around on a crosshead on one leg.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good show. It's not on anymore, but it's a great show. I used to watch. You figure it out. You let me know.
Yes.
So next is this one's more personal to me because I'm also a school board member. So school bus routes and school safety, which is we have indoor GIS right now. So think about this. Every school bus knows where it's going. It knows where the houses are, which point it is. So we can help route these school buses better and we can keep track of them so that we know if something's happened to one of the students. Did we bypass them? Whatever. School safety has been a new one. There was actually Nebraska legislation that gave money to school safety where you could pay to have your entire school mapped out inside. And it would tell you where everything is, where all the fire extinguishers are, where the poles for the fire are, where the stairs are. Every asset or attribute you can think about would be in it. So think about the thought process behind this was we have a bad situation, an active shooter situation in any school that's mapped out. Instead of our law enforcement coming up to the school and being like, I've never been here. I've never been inside Waverly High School. I've never been inside Norris. I've never been inside the SCC buildings. Well, now they have at their fingers a map that shows where they're at, what classes are where, how many students are probably in each of those classes, as well as is there a fire extinguisher there? And think about rooms that have glass for their exterior. Where are the glass pieces in the exterior? So they know where they can walk around and try to keep everybody safe. Thought it was a pretty interesting concept. I kind of want to look into this one a little bit more. I think it'd be great for things beyond school safety. Like I said, we were talking about how many students are in a class. Every single administrator would know at any point in time how many people are in that classroom. And they could use that to their advantage. They would also know, hey, fire extinguishers, expiration date on them. They would be able to extract that data and say, hey, I've got 10 fire extinguishers that are about to go out. This is where they're located. Go fix them so that we can update that data. That's some?
And,
Yeah.
But you said that they know exactly how many people were there. Is it also linked to their GPS somehow, or like the GIS, like
Yes.
exactly everything that's happening?
So if I have a tablet in my hand,
Uh-huh.
as long as it's GPS enabled, and all law enforcement has connection all the time, as long as that's there, it knows exactly where you're standing, give or take a few feet, but it knows where you're at. And the data that would be for the students, it's not necessarily grabbing that from the students. It's hoping that the school is saying, if I take a high school, this math class today should have 17 students in it. Now, obviously they would be able to say, hey, we have 17 students and say you were one of them and you called absent that day. The school's going to know that. So they could say, yes, we have 17. One's absent. So we have 16. They could count to make sure 16 students come out. If a 17th student comes out, then they know they have an extra. And why are you here? So it gives them that availability.
So it's the dynamic then. It's like very current.
Yes. And you'd want to keep it as current as possible too.
Okay, because I was wondering when you were further up the list, when it said like the criminal, like you said, yeah, you got it. So I was like, well, was it linked to his GPS? Like, how,
Yes,
I guess.
so if what you were saying about with the attorney and stuff,
Yeah.
so I will say one of the criminals actually had GPS, his ankle monitor. And so he had his GPS. So we actually were able to, not we, my apologies, they were able to track his exact movements. And I think he went to the casino like 3 times in 2 days in Omaha. And this was a while ago. Otherwise I wouldn't be telling you. It was a while ago. And he had come back and he actually had already been arrested for a sexual assault at the location and was already incarcerated, had been previously incarcerated for it, and got out and went back to the same location and assaulted somebody else. So there's all kinds of oddball things that can happen, whether it's live data or it's data from the past or static data that we grab. No, Greg, what's up?
But he,
Then what?
he literally went to a casino. And,
Yes.
oh,
Yep.
wow.
Went to it 3 times. It was kind of crazy. All right, so this one I dealt with yesterday, asset management. Knowing where every bridge is in the county, where every culvert is in the county, where every road and what kind of road type it is, and when was the last time they overlaid it? When was the last time they put gravel on a road? I mean, it's a lot of data that can get gathered quickly, and we do it. And when we think about assets, for me, I always thought assets like what I just named off, but people are assets too. So we actually have an app that we built that the guys who are doing all that work and the ladies who are doing all that work, they fill in their time clock using GIS. So they type in what they're doing and it gives me a location of where they're at. And it gives me the time frame that they're at. So if I were to ask, what was I doing yesterday? It could tell me where I was at and what I was doing, roughly time frames. And I make sure I get my hours in. Surveying. This was one I just got done having a talk with the surveyors about this, not the SEC ones, but the association. But I found out, and I didn't know this, the SEC surveying program actually requires you to take, I think, at least one GIS class, which I think is a great idea because I deal with the surveyors every day. Every single day, that this is what comes into our office and we have to deal with whatever they've done. We initially, GIS and surveying didn't get along. Now they get along a lot better. So it's great. But yeah, that's where that's at. So being as I'm in the assessor's office, we do asset or assessment and values for land. That usually revolves more around like knowing what's going on with each piece of land, soils, etc. Climate change initiatives. Now, I have not done any climate change initiatives in GIS, but I have seen some really interesting, I don't know how to put this, very interesting interpretations using GIS of climate change. The one that I watched was ironic. It was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And what's his name? Tim Walz, the governor or whatever of Minnesota. Yeah, he was actually there talking. And he was talking about everything they were doing. And then the next person who got up talked about climate change, and she was a student. And she was discussing that how the climate's moving. How Nebraska is the Cornhusker state and corn, and showing how with climate change it moving. But she said, this has been for years and years and years. There's a reason why we were the Cornhusker state, because that's when at a certain time frame, that was when corn was made the most in Nebraska, and now it's starting to shift east. So it was kind of interesting to watch her version of what it was. It wasn't saying anything negative or positive. It was just a different interpretation. Our planning department, their job is to deal with subdivisions every day, make sure that Lincoln doesn't change too much. We put things where they should be as opposed to just like, hey, go do whatever you want. And then my last and most favorite two are machine learning, AI. I think that's something huge that people will be getting into more with GIS. I'm really surprised it's not gone further than what it is right now, but we do things like taking pictures of the road from a moving vehicle, a video, and then looking at the road to see how many cracks are in it and what type of crack they are, and letting our machine learning tell us what it sees, and then letting AI tell us what we need to do. No, we haven't perfected that yet. But we also do like buildings, footprints, and finding like, for me, I put a new deck in my backyard, and we actually have it so it looks at our old aerial photo and our new aerial photo and says, hey, there's a change here. You guys need to go double check and see what this is. Did I just have a tarp out, or is this an actual deck? So that one bothers some people, but I think it's really good to be able to see the change detection in properties. Let's see. So this is a short list. I'm sure that it's longer. This was me just trying to look real quick. But I wanted to look and see what SEC programs can use GIS or could become part of it. So the ag community, I don't know how many farmers that I've talked to that they sit in their combine and it just drives itself. They're using GIS in a way to do that. People are using the drones in the ag world to make sure the land is what it says it is. So same thing for the ag guys. So I had computer information technology. I will tell you right now, everything obviously revolves around computers for us. And the most frustrating thing is when servers go down. And I will tell you all morning today, that's all I've dealt with. We have 2 servers, they're messing up on us. They keep going up and down. Well, that in turn has the public call and say, hey, I can't get on your services. So getting people that know what they're doing, not that we don't, we have people that know what they're doing, but having those people there that can help, that are understanding what GIS is and what it does, not necessarily creating anything in GIS, but they're running those servers on the back end to make sure that we're able to actually do our jobs all the time. Yes.
That's technology for you.
Yes.
Young days you work perfectly. Okay, you'll get to it. No, I'm not going to work out.
Every Monday we have what's called gremlins. Every single Monday. So every Monday. Business is kind of the concept behind business would be thinking about like where to put something. So where's the best place to put a new shopping mall, etc. I cannot remember. Let me think real quick. Ironically, I watched a reel on Facebook from a movie called Intern with Robert De Niro. And they were looking at online sales for somebody. And if you go and you watch it like I'm watching things, they brought up a map. So they had a map that showed every single thing that was going on in each of their major cities and their hubs. And I'm sitting there going, this is an older movie, and boom, they're using GIS to say, hey, where am I selling things? Where should I be spending my money advertising, etc. They're using GIS. So the business people can do that.
That movie talking to Robert De Niro.
It's a good movie.
It's outstanding.
Criminal justice, I talked about that earlier with what we do with our sheriffs, what the attorneys do. The attorneys are getting stuff from criminal justice to say, here's the situation, here's where a knife was, here's where the person got stabbed, here's X, Y, and Z. Can you please put that somewhere in space? Because we all know they say a picture tells 1,000 words. Didn't want to screw that one up. And if you're looking at it as a juror and you see like, hey, look, it is possible that this happened and it's all in a proximity, hey, then you got a better chance to convict somebody or to not convict somebody, saying that it isn't possible for this to happen. There's no way, we need to relook at it. So that's a good piece. Data science, I just put in there because, hey, data science is data science. The guy who sits in front of me, he's our data scientist. I ask him a question and he is like my own little personal Google, and I shouldn't say personal. That's wrong. He's like our own office's Google. I'll say, hey, can you figure this out? Do you know what's going on with this? And he just goes, and it's amazing the things he can do. So he's one of them that does our AI and our machine learning stuff a lot. Design and drafting technology, again, that's where I started. So I don't know if it's an evil word anymore, but we were just called CAD jockeys. So I was a CAD jockey and I loved being a CAD jockey. I wanted to design houses. Honestly, I thought it would be cool. I designed one house, drafted that one house, and that one house got built, and that was it. And it's in Oklahoma. But the people who are doing the drafting, they can do things by helping the surveyors with what they need to do that comes in turn to us in GIS, as well as, again, your drafting skills can in turn flip you into GIS too, where you're doing, in essence, drafting within a constraint. Energy generations technology. This one I didn't know this was here. So this was kind of interesting, and I saw that they talked about water and wastewater. Well, guess what? Our water and wastewater, they have way too much. No, they don't have too much. They have a lot of GIS in their department. They're tracking everything. They know if they were to do a release, what's going on with that release, where it's happening, how much is being released, et cetera. We were just talking about this the other day after our events that we had with the wildfires of chemicals and chemicals from water and wastewater treatment plants. What would happen? So the small topic, and this one might just seem obvious, GIST. That's where I'm at, and let's cross our fingers. I got 3 classes to take, and then I can graduate. So then I'll be done with the GIST program. But GIST, I think that's self-explanatory. Land surveying, kind of talked about that a little bit too. The land surveyors, it really is amazing what those guys and gals go out and do every day. Sometimes in the blazing heat, sometimes in the freezing cold, depending on what's going on and how important it is. But at the end of the day, when they come back, at least in Lancaster County, and I think Douglas and Sarpy, all the information they give goes to a GIS department. And we check their work and we make sure everything's okay. Learning about surveying is great for GIS also. So I work with 3 other people that do the drafting in our office. And this is the hardest part for them because surveyors have a set way they do things. And we have a set way that our mind says that a square is a square. It is 100 by 100 by 100 by 100. That's a square, right? 100 foot all the way around. And it should be 90-degree angles. Well, it is possible for it to be 100, 100, and they have 101 and 100 within what they're saying. Because of the way they call things out, it could actually still be a perfect square. And it makes people's minds go crazy, but the rules of surveying are just a tad bit different. We look at a bearing and a distance. They look at a bearing and a distance also, but they also have a thing called, and I will screw this up, so basically looking at a monument. So if they find a monument that is supposed to be that corner, they can say it's going 101 feet to that monument or 100 feet to that monument. And you have to respect the monument before you respect the distance or the bearing. Yes.
Like, how do they even impact 100, 100, 100?
How do they get away with that?
Yeah.
Because the problem is, honestly, with land moving, and there is a whole nother science to that, which I don't want to get into because it's kind of crazy, like plate tectonics, where everything moves. And honestly, no surveyor is, and if you ask a surveyor, they'll tell you this. I'm not saying something odd. When they go out here and they put their rod and their locator down, they're going to get potentially just a little bit different than the next guy. So you could have one spot, 6 surveyors will all have a different location for that one spot. There's satellites. So if I have a day like today, I might only get, and I don't know the numbers anymore, so I'm making this up. I may only get 10 satellites today, but tomorrow, if it's nice, bright, sunshiny day, no clouds, I may get 20 satellites. And I wish I could remember the exact number of satellites, but I don't right off the top of my head. And this one, I put this one in, but this is kind of a stretch. The utility line worker, I can tell you that LES, they are huge into GIS also. LES has everything mapped out. And with what they have, they can put a line, they have all their lines in, all their electrical lines, and if something were to go down, they know how to reroute it and where they need to go to do the reroute. So if they need to flip a switch, they need to go out and do something, or they just tell the system, hey, this piece is gone, and the system fixes it. They can do that all sitting at a desk. I found out a little bit more about it with one of our incidents that we had in emergency management, doing exercises to see what would happen if we lost power in certain areas. As it is. It's really intriguing how they can just make changes like on the fly. So it does feel bad when our power goes out, but at the same time, I would really have a hard time thinking, man, if I had to wait for that guy or gal that's out there with a big piece of paper. Okay, now where are we going again? Oh, now I've got to go to this other page. And now you've got a page here and you got to flip to the other page and then hope you can figure it out. Well, if you're doing it in GIS, you have it mapped out. You can click a button and say, hey, the power died here. You do the same thing with water. So you have streams. You can say, hey, right here we got a block, this bridge block. Now what's going to happen to all that water? Is that water going to flow over? Is that water going to go reroute itself this way? You know everything about what it's doing at that time.
And like, let me roll out the paper for you. Another piece. Another piece.
Yeah.
Eventually, you're very good papers.
Yeah. And
trying to figure out where everything needs to go.
And that's been a huge problem. I'm not saying paper's necessarily bad, but paper is only good at that moment. So it's called static. So as soon as you make it, it's out of date, potentially. So yeah, a lot of county engineer's office, they actually took all of the paper that they have and we scanned all of it and put it into a database. And that database now is available. Our surveyors used to only be able to work 8 to 4 getting data from the county engineer. Now they work 24/7, 365. They can click a button and get whatever data they want. And we have it scanned for them. So yes, sorry.
They were in the best part of the state. And I was sensitized on TV, on news programs, that were saying, okay, so you know, the wind warning, and we're going to shut the power down. So make sure you know how to open your garage door and stuff. And so when you were talking about utility line workers, I could just imagine all the GIS that's part of that, monitoring.
Oh yeah.
What's going down, what's going to happen if they shut down their lines.
Yeah, you got to know.
Fires.
Yeah, they have huge fires there. And that was what's interesting was the last exercise we did at the EOC, and I hopefully I won't get smacked around for saying this, but we did one where we recreated a tornado. We recreated the tornado that went through Waverly, but we moved it to another location. And we actually had the National Weather Service there. And it was interesting that as I'm talking about what we have for GIS and what we're doing with it, the National Weather Service guy comes over and is like, hey, during an incident, something going on, can we just send you data? And I'm like, oh yeah. Because right now we have to wait 24 hours. Oh, I think it's 24. It might be less, but we wait roughly till the next day to try and extract data from the National Weather Service. So I actually have a script run that goes in and says, give me all the weather data. And it does some zonal statistical stuff and says, hey, within this water basin, here's the largest amount of rain that fell in that area. Does it hurt any of our bridges? And it's just to make sure our bridges are okay. Because if we get over 3.5 inches, I believe, you actually have to go out and check the bridges in that area. So instead of checking all of them, I mean, if it's completely wet north and dry in the south, we don't want everybody out checking all of them. We just need to check the ones that are important. So now what I didn't put on here that might go in with the data science, but so it was an interesting conversation I had just before this, that GIS is a SQL, is a database on the back end. So we're messing with it in SQL all the time, trying to figure out why is an issue happening, etc. So I am not the best at SQL, and I'm finding out I'm really not the best at SQL, and I need to learn more. So I'm actually learning more. This is one of my last classes I have to take. So I look at people who also understand those concepts, those queries that need to be made, those selects, those create tables, those order bys, trying to come up with some other big words that we used, wheres. The people that understand that, those are the people that can come in and into GIS and actually help create some of that stuff on the back end, help be some of the quality control and understand what's going on. So when somebody like me calls and says, hey guys, I cannot figure out why am I not seeing the data, they can go on the back end, look at the database and understand here's what's going on. So that's a big, huge help. Yes, Greg?
Those absence, those counts, those averages, those mistakes, those things, all will go.
Yes. Everything that comes out. So in GIS, I can set up stuff that says, give me a query that shows everybody who worked yesterday in the Northeast, in District 1 in Lancaster County. These are all those people that work that day. And then I can say, okay, from there, now tell me how many of those people did put gravel down? And how many times was dump truck number 186 used? I can find all that in GIS. I can set up queries that I can change whatever I want. But when you're looking at data that might be coming in that doesn't look right, you need somebody on the back end who can go in and actually dig in and find out, hey, here's the little pieces that we're seeing, and we can get that fixed for you. You got a question?
So it's about the utility line workers.
Yeah.
The LEO, they had a notice on my door about like putting a tree in my backyard. And I thought, like he expected like the environment around it to know what's gonna affect the lines.
Yes. And they also use that. Gosh, when you said it, it made me think of it. And now it was there and then it just went away. But they use, there's some analysis they can do with planting trees to determine to help with your energy also. So if you have a house, like I took out the 2 trees in my front yard because when the wind came up, they were like, and literally moving and hitting my house. So we took them out. Well, now the whole front of my house is just hot every single night. It just is smoldering hot because I don't have any shade there. So there's actually programs built in GIS to say, hey, if I were to plant a tree here, how does that tree help me? And at what point will it help me? So what tree do I need to plant? So I'm awful with trees, but if I plant an elm tree here, is this going to give me coverage over my whole house or just part of my house? And how long before that tree will grow to actually start letting me see those savings? And it will say, hey, based on this, you might save, $50 a year, whatever, or $10 every cycle on your bill. And I found that to be very interesting that somebody spent the time to do that. They've done analyses like that, and you were talking about wind. They've done analysis to say, here's what a 3D model of the city looks like. Now, if we have wind coming through like X, Y, or Z, how is that going to affect other pieces of the city? Is it going to be where it knocks down wires? Is it going to be that, hey, you know what? If the planning department might say, hey, if we have another business that comes in and wants to make a high rise, not too high, but they make it this high, now that wind changes again, and we can say, okay, now we don't have to worry about the wind here, or your lighting on your streets. So they can determine from that 3D model also, okay, we're going to need more street lights here now because of these businesses or these buildings have actually taken away the sunlight earlier. So they can do stuff like that. I don't know if I have another slide. Yeah, I just have my questions one. So I can go through some more if you want, or if you have any wild questions, I can answer them. Not good on time. Are we okay? We have plenty of time. I gotta put on my glasses to be able to see. And I always put this one up just because sometimes, questions can get a little, oh no. So I always feel that way. Yes?
I would love for you to go more over like a little bit of the utility line stuff where like the 100 stuff. Like how do you do that?
I like the survey part of it.
Yeah.
The survey part's hard because I don't want to speak for surveyors just because I'm not a surveyor, I'm not licensed. I just work with a lot of surveyors. We talk a lot. There's just a lot of legal means of how they do things. So it's a rarity to see somebody have something completely wrong. But when we do see something that doesn't close completely, we have to look. And in GIS, we actually will go in and put in and say, I'll use the screen. No, you were good. So we'll put in the lines and the line work in based on what they have for their meets and bounds. And if it doesn't come back and meet exactly right here, if it does, it's going to come in and say your closure 0 or 0.1 or 0.01, that's okay. But if it comes in and says it's off by 3, you know something's wrong. Either I can't type or there's something else going on. So then we actually have to go in and say, are they saying going north so many feet to that point? Because that's a known point. And then going that direction so many feet to that known point. And then to this known point. The known points mean more than that bearing in that distance. And that comes through a court of law that they have to deal with that.
What? Unknown point.
A known point. So you have a piece of land that you own. You have a nice piece right here. Probably should go up here. You got a nice piece up here, this square where I'm at, trapped. Well, you also have neighbors. They've already had their property way before you. So that point has been set. That's a known point. Somebody else came in and put what's called like a PK nail. So it's magnetic. They've put that there. So that is a known point, and the surveyor will mark that as a known point. So that could be a known point. That one could be, and this one could not be. So at the end of the day, we actually draw it from there to there to there, and then we use whatever they give us for the last points, because this one might not be known. So it's a tough one, and it's one that people get very frustrated with if they don't understand how that works. And so that's why surveying and GIS, again, way back in the day, they didn't get along. GIS back in the day for surveyors meant get it surveyed. Okay, that's what it meant to them. Now it's not so much that. I know that there are surveyors who have a hard time with GIS, but all we're trying to do is make their work better for them. Make it more for the public to say, oh, okay, I understand what's going on. Because it is interesting. I've looked at deeds from like 1882 is one I'm looking at right now at work. And it's one that has that same problem that we just talked about with distances. It gives me a distance here and a distance here, but it says that line goes from there down to the north line of this guy's property. So that means even though they're telling me it only goes to here, I need to draw it to here because that's where it goes. So it becomes legal issues. And it's interesting, older deeds I've seen from the 1800s where some of them are pretty darn close to what they're supposed to be. So it's just another one of those disciplines where both of them, I think, should talk more often.
We're looking at a deed from 1882.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, we have all the deeds all the way back. I have seen some, I don't know if I've seen any further back. I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, we have every deed for every piece of land. So we can do that, and we can look at all the old surveys from every piece of land. My favorite will be, I don't know how many of you are from around here, but Hickman, Nebraska. Its original plat name was not Hickman, it was Hackman, Hakman. That was the original plat of Hickman. It got changed to Hickman, but it was originally Hackman. And I bring that one up all the time and put it on the wall for new employees to show them like, hey, look, this is what can happen. You're going to go find the old stuff, but just remember, you're not going to change it to Hackman. It changed somewhere else to Hickman. And then I have other deeds that I've had that our surveyors have gone out where a surveyor mistaked points and nobody caught it. And so they actually took part of the right of way out in the city. There's a road that goes, it looks like it's supposed to go straight, but it goes straight ahead and then takes a 90-degree angle to the left 3 feet and then goes 90 degrees straight again. Well, they misinterpreted it. And so they actually took some of the right of way. So now it no longer has the jog. It is straight, but they actually acquired the land potentially illegally. But because it's gone through, it is how it is. But we had surveyors go out and actually check it because when we redraft a whole section in a county, we need to make sure we're right. We want to make sure everything's okay. Let's keep looking back.
We just moved from the 90-degree angle, right? They were like that. Nope. Now straight.
What happened was, and I don't think it happens as much anymore, but the city, if you ever notice, like in the ground, when you're driving, you'll see like the little round pieces.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's probably just like a small thing for the water. Not all of them are. Some of them are called pots. And if you open it up, that's an actual center line pot that they can go in and say, here's where the center line of the street is. And there was a small amount of time, I think, that when they would redo a street, they would remove the pots and they wouldn't put them back. So then you lose that center line control. Or if they overlaid the road, they'd just go right over the top of them and never cut it out and put it back in, or never cut it out so we knew it was there. So you lose your center line control. And when you lose control, just like in anything in the world, if you lose control, things go crazy. So that is a hard part. Good. Anything else? Sorry.
I was just wondering if, I guess, this GIS program can be applied towards, I guess, different zones before people buy or rent a place or an area, given with all the fires and everything, to kind of like, because I know a lot of insurances pretty much, you know, when the time comes, oh yeah, we don't cover this, we don't cover that, or make it hard.
Right.
So for the average consumer to know either you're renting or going to buy, to get a heads up, hey, this area is dangerous because of this, that.
There,
For fires.
there's flood mapping. So the FEMA flood maps actually show everywhere where you would have to buy flood insurance. And what the hard part is, when I moved into my house, I didn't need it at all. I still don't, but they changed a few things around the city. And when they did, it actually made that flood zone creep up closer to my house. So it's not always that first time go look. You want to periodically, if you know something's happened in town, you want to go look. But think about when you were saying it, it made me think of, oh man, and I just, apartments.com, I think, commercial. The guy from Jurassic Park, who's always like the poobah of buying things. If you ever watch that, or realtor.com, that commercial, every single one of them is bringing up a map showing here's what's available, here's the price, here is what school district you're in, here's who your senator is, here's where your voting place is. All that data can become available just like that. And all you have to do is you hope somebody's going out and grabbing it. Like I can't as a government do that, but we can do like our voting areas. We have that posted out. I'll tell you the story, how GIS started in the police department and in Lincoln. A police chief actually made a comment to us my early years when I was still with Windstone. We were at a meeting and he was saying, it was interesting that he had his phone. So he's walking down the streets and I don't remember where he's at. Let's just say New Orleans. And he's walking down the streets like this. And he had asked on the map, like he just clicked bars because it was like, where are we all going to go have a drink? And so as he's walking, his phone is popping up and following him the whole time. And it's saying, this place has got a rating of 2. This one has a rating of 4, etc. Well, his mind went to, why can't the police do the same thing? As I'm driving down the street in my patrol car, the map is saying, by the way, this person has a warrant for their arrest and their last known address is right there. And you just got a call here, but on the second floor, not the first floor where this person lives. So you know now while you're there, you can go to the second floor, take care of what's going on, come down to the first floor, knock on the door and just be like, is everything okay? You know, see if that person's home, check up on them. If you know somebody has a mental health issues, you have the same thing, you just have a map. And as you're moving with wherever you're at in a car or walking, it can tell you everything you need to know based on what you want to know. So if Again, if you want to know what are bad areas in the past for fire, similar, you could get that map to know, hey, where I'm walking along here, or I'm driving along, or I'm looking at houses. When I click on it, has this been a bad area? Yeah, here, it's been a bad area. So yeah, you're probably going to worry about insurance then. Plus, you're going to worry about your house and your valuables. That's a really good question. Not that they all aren't. That was just a really good one. You made me think on that one.
The apartments.com type thing.
Uh-huh.
Fencing got me thinking about the latest apartments.com advertising with Home.com as well. They were showcasing the ways that you stay up. The thing
Yes.
was a house on a fairway, golfing fairway. But there was a house next to a volcano.
I don't think I'd want that.
And the house in a desert during the middle of a sandstorm. But
No. And that's every single thing. It all depends on if you can extract the data from somewhere. If you can, then you can put it in and actually do stuff. So it's kind of wild like that. We do look at things like that periodically.
For GIS and it's using in AI, I just want to bring the types of that AI and GIS are usually going together. As I said it can be listed for like checking amount of cracks in the pavement or something.
Yeah. So we have it so it can check cracks in the pavement. And I just got off a call with somebody who's actually using it to say, I want to see a picture of the bridge that you're working on, or a bridge that Minnesota's been very good about this. They take pictures of their bridges all the time, and they use a drone.
Yeah, because I was kind of getting big.
Yeah.
I don't know, like the types of AI that's being
Yeah.
used. It's been a lot of things negative.
Yeah. Well, I felt this was pretty good.
Computer parts going up and as well as destroying the planet as we know it.
Yeah, what we're seeing is this guy, so he was using it to look at the road underneath, the bridge underneath, and say in 2014 it looked great. Here's what it looks like in 2016. Does the AI pick up cracks? So it was actually able to give them some forecast to say, hey, you need to probably be looking at fixing this bridge in the next year.
It's like, so it's feel more ethical use.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of that mostly in like the medical field and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's places that are heavy into AI and model learning or machine learning with GIS. We're not as huge with it.
So shoving down our throat.
It's an interesting piece, is what it is. It boils down to the person sitting behind that computer.
Yeah.
Do you have the right person behind that computer to help you with that? And I know in our office we have a guy who he's worse than I am. He made building footprints using machine learning, and it got to like 98% perfect. And he was upset that it was 98. He wanted 100. So he kept trying to fix it to make it 100. And I'm like, 98 is pretty good out of, a million pieces of property.
Or it just gets.
Yeah. So it's kind of it is interesting, and it's upcoming, and it's just looking to see where it goes and making sure people, like you said, aren't using it in the wrong way.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the hard part. That's where you have your peers that should be looking and saying, hey, I'm not sure if that's what we should be doing right now. So that's what I got. Do you have another one? I thought you did, but I couldn't tell if you were stretching.
Yeah. Would you say the hardest part about doing GIS?
The hardest part? I don't know if for me personally, I don't know. The hardest part might be just as the technology keeps going, understanding the little bit of change that happens. We actually went from using heavy Python. We're still using Python, but then they switched and said, okay, we're going to use something called Arcade. And so we're using their Arcade programming to do certain things, but you still have to use Python to do this. And so you're like kind of going around in circles trying to figure it out. That to me becomes the hardest. And just making sure you stay up. It's kind of like any job. I was told the person that I designed the house for was an engineer, and his words to me were, if you're not trying to learn something every day or trying to keep up with what you're doing in your field every day, you're going to get behind really, really fast, and it's really hard to catch up. So I'm constantly on the web looking at different things. I won't lie, I nerd out. I go at night, I might be playing a video game on the computer, and I've got another window open that I'm looking at articles about things that are going on, just because I want to know what's happening. And where am I behind? Because I'm still behind, and I don't feel I shouldn't be, but I feel very behind.
I am very similar, but instead of games, I'm listening to music at the same time while I'm looking at stuff.
I my mind won't let me listen to music and do that. I usually have like a video going, and then I got a video game over here and a video over here trying to explain something. I just have to shut the volume off on the video game. So
For me, I just crank the volume up on the video I'm watching so that it drowns out the music.
yeah, I get that. I'll say at work every day I have my headset on. I have my headset on, and that's usually tough because somebody will say, "Hey, say my name like 3 times," and I don't ever hear them. And then they'll throw something at me, and then I'm like, "What? What do you need?" And it is you kind of get in a trance um, sometimes when you're doing your job. So, and I'd say this: if you guys have a ton more questions or any questions or ever have a question, if you go back on there, you can figure out where I work. And you can do all that. I don't ever have a problem with anybody calling me, asking me a question, asking to come out. We do all kinds of stuff. I mean, I have no problem talking to people. Normally I would have my business cards and stuff and let you have one, but I don't. Like a fool, I left them sitting on my desk. I just got new ones, so I'm like, ah. But yeah, I never have a problem with questions. I even get questions from some people other times that just want to know something over here. And it's kind of nice to get those questions. A few of your questions have made me think about other things that I could probably start doing for this county right now. So it'll be an interesting thing leaving there. So again, I always say it, I just learned probably just as much from you as you might have learned from me, which is awesome.
You got me thinking about Turn with Robert De Niro.
I'm telling you, it was a pretty good movie. Makes you think.
That's one of the movies that makes you think.
It's going to make me want to be an intern when I retire.
Like, other than the Earth documentaries, it kind of makes you think about what you want to do with your life.
That's true.
Like, that scene where they look on that is still my favorite scene from that entire.
Yeah, and what you just said is something else pretty cool. For me, GIS has been my thing. I've always wanted to draft. I've always wanted to do something drawing. And I also coach football. And so I always have players who have like, oh, I want to be a wide receiver. I also want to be the quarterback and I want to be the running back and I want to play on defense and do all this other stuff. I always tell them, that's great, but you're trying to do 4 or 5 different things. You're never going to be good at one of them. Find one that you can be really good at. And then if you want to do a second or a third one, kind of have some fun with it. But man, you might be the best rush end that anybody's ever seen. Go be the best rush end. So I do the same thing at work. Hey, I just got turned into the developer not long ago. So I try to say, hey, I'm going to go be the best I can be.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming and sharing your information with us. I learned a lot about GIS, so and that's a good thing because I needed to know more. So, all right, I'm going to end the Zoom. Thank you, everyone. If anybody has questions, you can contact Joe or myself.
Longer gonna be a PE or whatever. Oh, yeah.
Zero, 7 or 002. Like,